Good evening. We're less than an hour away from the 12 News primary debate for governor. I'm digital reporter Adriana Rozas Rivera, live here at Rhode Island College, where the debate will be happening at 8 p.m. You can see folks shuffling in behind me. 4 podiums set up for the 4 candidates that will face off tonight on the issues that voters care about the most. Former Secretary of State Matt Brown, current Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, incumbent Governor Dan McKee, and former CVS executive Helena Folks, all will be moderated by Ted Nesi and Tim White tonight, live, like I said, starting at 8. Now, this is an interesting debate, a heated week for some of the candidates, and primary day is September 13. Early voting already well underway. More than 15,700 people have already cast their ballots, either by mail or at early polling locations. So really tough for the candidates to change those votes already, but they can still do something about the undecideds. Polling in August showed that 21% of folks were still undecided in this race. McKee having a 3-point lead over Gorbea. That's well within the margin of error, though. And here to talk about just that and the issues that the candidates might face today is 12 News political analyst Joe Fleming. Joe, how are you tonight?
Very good.
So tell us a little bit about what you expect to happen on the debate stage tonight.
I expect the candidates to really try to show the difference between each other. I expect them to go after each other, to talk about negatives of the other person. They really have to make some inroads tonight with the voters. With a large block of undecided voters a month ago, they need to give their voters a reason to vote for them tonight. If they don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for them to gain a lot of ground over the next week.
Are these 4 candidates wildly different, or are they sort of similar and it's going to come down to, personal preference of each voter?
Well, they're similar in some ways, a difference in other ways. Matt Brown is a very liberal candidate. Dan McKee is more of the moderate to liberal candidate. So I think you're going to see some differences there. They agree on a lot of the issues. They agree on like guns. They agree on abortion. Where they disagree on is how to do some of these things. Also, they disagree on how Dan McKee has run the government over the last 18 months. Those differences are going to probably come out tonight.
So talk to me a little bit about the poll you guys conducted in August. So no fresh polling since then. Do you think that a lot has changed since that poll?
Well, we don't know due to the fact there's been no more public polling, but I would suspect the undecided is starting to go down. I think right now people are really zeroing in on this election. I think tonight could be very crucial for these candidates because, again, if they can distinguish themselves and grab a big block of those undecided voters, they could win. Our poll showed McKee with 28% of the vote. That's not enough to win this race. So all the candidates have to pick up some of those undecided voters, and I think that's what they're going to be aiming at tonight.
Do you have any idea on what these undecided voters are looking for? Do we know what topics they care the most about? Are they specific demographics?
No, we didn't in the last survey. We did not test that. What we did test was simply the strength of each candidate. And we found out that there's a lot of the voters who say they're voting for one candidate or another who said they could still change their mind. So if a candidate makes a strong point tonight, they can get them to move from one candidate to another candidate. So there still could be a lot of movement over these next 6 or 7 days.
So let's talk about hot button issues. What do you think voters will be on the lookout today? Is it healthcare? Is it the Pawtucket Soccer Stadium? What are you expecting to be the flashy topics of the night?
Well, obviously the economy is still number one in this environment. So I think they're going to talk about the environment, the economy, how they're going to deal with the economy in the state of Rhode Island. I think the Tidewater Landing Soccer Stadium will come up. If the question doesn't come from Tim or Ted, I'm sure the other candidates will bring it up, and they're going to try to tie Dan McKee to that, saying that it's not a strong position for the state to be in. I think those would be the main things. I think they're going to talk about other issues that have been a problem. The ILO contract, I'm sure, will come up tonight at the same time, talking about the FBI investigation. So there's a lot of things that are happening. They'll probably bring up Helena Folks with the CVS, with the opioids. Those things will come. Nellie Gorbea with a botched commercial that came out early on. So I think a lot of these things are going to be brought up tonight throughout this hour debate.
So I think that it's interesting that you mention Gorbea's last week. Let's talk a little bit about the bumps in the road. Each of the candidates has had a few recently. Gorbea probably the most of them all within the span of a week. Do you think, first of all, what's your take on how that might affect her chances? And do you think voters care about that?
Well, again, voters have not really been focused down on this governor's race that much at all. They're starting to focus in now. So it could have an effect on it, especially, if it's one thing, it's okay. But if it becomes 2 or 3 or 4 gaffes, that could start to build up, and that's where it could have the impact. I think one thing alone, probably not. But if they keep building up, it could have an effect.
And now Matt Brown and McKee faced off in the last debate, and it got pretty tense in terms of the ILO contract. Are you expecting Matt to be as forceful in his attacks towards McKee tonight on that contract?
I would expect Matt Brown to be very forceful tonight. I think he's going to probably go after the governor, trying to talk about the ILO contract, talk about the FBI investigation. I think he's going to keep pushing as much as he can. That's a big issue for Matt Brown. He could really hit the governor on.
So, most recently, of course, we had flooding across Rhode Island yesterday into today, and the McKee campaign has been hit. You know, he's getting blamed for how the state handled the flooding by the Folks campaign and others. So do you think that will play a part at all in McKee's outcome next week and in tonight?
I think tonight the other candidates may bring that up, but I'm not sure how much the voters are going to blame Dan McKee for an act of nature yesterday, which doesn't usually happen in the state of Rhode Island like this. I don't think they're going to blame him for the roads flooding, because we had like 9 inches of rain in Cranston in a very short period of time where the flooding took place on 95. But I think the opponents are going to try to talk about how they would do things differently if they were governor. But again, keep in mind, Dan McKee's only been governor 18 months. You can't change everything in an 18-month period.
Yeah, and I'll remind folks that incumbent Governor Dan McKee was not expected to be in this primary originally as an incumbent, because Gina Raimondo was expected to finish her second term. She became U.S. Secretary of Commerce, which then led McKee to succeed her. So does having an incumbent in the race change at all the landscape of this election cycle?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when Dan McKee was lieutenant governor, he had a hard time raising money for the campaign. Once he became governor, the fundraising became a lot easier, and he's raised an awful lot of money at this point. He also has a lot of support from unions, which in the past he has not had. So by being the governor, it gives him a big advantage. The question is, can he take that advantage and bring it over the finish line next Tuesday? Right now, we don't know that.
So you mentioned unions. Let's talk on the ground support. Are you seeing energy and excitement ahead of this race? You have said all summer that it's been kind of sleepy.
Right. It's still been sleepy. I've not seen a lot of on-the-ground support or swelling, but I think we're going to see, starting like Thursday, all the campaigns are going to really start talking about get out the vote, making phone calls to the people they identified as their supporters, motivating their voters to get out on Tuesday to vote. The big question is, how big will the turnout be on Tuesday? A lot of people saying it's going to be a very small turnout. A lot of people saying more of a moderate turnout. That could be a key in this race. I mean, a small turnout, the unions who are strongly supporting Dan McKee, if they get their vote out, that could have a big impact on a small turnout.
Funny you mentioned that, because I was just going to ask you about turnout. More than 15,700 folks have cast their ballots early. Is that normal? Is that behind schedule for a midterm? What are your thoughts?
Well, again, this is a new system that we have. Anyone can vote by mail ballot now, where 2 years ago we had that, but that was because of COVID. But before that, we would only get like 5,000 to 6,000 mail ballots. In a primary, we're up to 18,000 now, so it is more. The early voting, we never had that before 2 years ago. And right now, that's like about 6,000 to 7,000 up to this point. And again, 2 years ago it was a big number, but again, because of COVID. So we're not sure how much impact that's going to have. But I mean, it does not, those people may be voting now and not come out on Tuesday. So the numbers could be a lot lower. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, and you mentioned it feeling a little sleepy. I will say quite a few supporters outside Rhode Island College right now, all each holding up banners for each of their candidates. So it seems like the debate has got people geared up.
No question. I mean, the support we're seeing outside, we need to see go out throughout the whole state over the next few days. The campaigns have to really gear their supporters up and get them out there working to motivate their voters.
So what's next after today? This is the last of 2 televised debates for these candidates. What do the next couple of days look like for them?
Well, I think the next couple of days, the candidates themselves will be on the road, meeting voters everywhere they can, heavy media buys, independent expenditures, buying, advertising over the next few days. And as I said, come towards the weekend, it'll all shift to get out the vote. The candidates will still be out there meeting voters, but their campaigns will be trying to turn out their vote.
All right, Joe, thanks so much for being with us. And folks, you have to stick with us at 8 p.m. live from Rhode Island College. Ted Nesi and Tim White moderating this final televised debate for the governor's candidates for the Democratic Party. I'm Adriana Rozas Rivera. Thanks for watching.